So this is probably going to be confusing to the majority of people because this is not actually biblical at all. But there are people I've heard recently, including Ken Johnson, who believes that the jubilees are not the first year of the next 7 sevens, but they are a standalone 50th year, and then the following year would be the next set of 7 sevens. So what I did was I wanted to say, okay, well, if that's actually true and that's how we're supposed to count it, then I would like to see how it kind of how it fleshes out. So 1406 is always going to be the beginning, assuming an entry date of 1406 BC. That's going to be when Israel came into the land. So count 7 sevens, and then in the 50th year, hallow and proclaim Jubilee. Okay. So if that's to be a standalone year and not the first year of the next 7 sevens, it should be the next year of the first year of the next 7 sevens. But if people say it's not, and it's a standalone year, this is how we would map out the Jubilees. So what you're looking at is in BC, you're looking at any year that ends in 07 or 57 as a quote-unquote Jubilee year. So I skipped to the section of years that would include the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem. That would begin because 457 would have been a Jubilee year. Going by the ending in 57 or 07, 457 would have been a Jubilee year. So we start at 456, like we did up here with the 06s and the 56s. So 445 BC would have been that year. And then I just kept counting down. So I got to the day count if we're using a 365-day calendar, which is because these are Gregorian years. So I got to the day count, which is the 173,880 days, by counting the number of years in each cycle, which would be 50 years times 365 days per year. So the number of days that we're counting per Jubilee, for conversion purposes, I counted in each of these periods, and we can get to the 173,880 days, which is good. But where we run into an issue with this is the number of periods of 7. It doesn't jive. And so what I did was I started this here, and I said, okay, I have 1 full period of 7, 2 full periods of 7, 3 full periods of 7, 4 full periods of 7, 5 full periods of 7 here, with an extra 3 years out of 7. And then I did that for all of these. So I said, okay, this first set where the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem is, I have a partial 7 sevens, 5 full, and then 3 extra years. And then I have a full set of 7 sevens. And then I have a full set of 7 sevens. So I did that, and I came down to, I have 8 periods of 7 sevens with that extra 5 from the first, and we count to the end, which is April 632 AT, triumphal entry. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full periods of 7 sevens down here with an extra 3. What you'll note is that the full periods of 7 sevens plus the partials are 66. And we should see 69. And then you add in the 3 here and then the 3 up top, which takes you to, you could approximate 67. So we'll add 1 more in between the 3 plus 3 equals 6 of 7 years. That still only gets you to 67. So what we find here is that maybe you can get to a day count, which is the same, but the number of periods of 7 that you're counting doesn't equal what it should, because you're essentially losing 1 Jubilee year, one year in each period of 7 for these Jubilee years that you're taking out of sequence. So I'm taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 Jubilee years that are out of sequence that I should be able to put into another period of 7 plus 2 years. So, long story short, the math doesn't work. If you take out the 50th year in a Jubilee cycle and isolate it as its own year, you are shorting the 69 periods of 7 by an equal amount. However many Jubilee years you're pulling out during that time period, you are shorting the 69 periods of 7 by that amount. So of course the math isn't going to work. It's not the right way to count. And I didn't even know that people had this idea that they should be counted this way, but the math simply does not work, and you wouldn't expect it to. Now, what we also do, so I kind of did that quick to see, do we even get to 69 periods of 7? No, we don't. Okay, so it's wrong. It's just wrong. But then we convert from BC to AD, which I did here, and said, okay, this is the first Jubilee year. If we count this wrong way, the first Jubilee year would be 44 AD, and then the next one would be 94. So like when you go up here in BC, your Jubilee years would be 07 years and 57 years. In AD, they're 44 and 94. Which, so 1994, under that logic, would have been a Jubilee year. So we start at 1995, and you see the next Jubilee year wouldn't even be until 2044. I have no idea what Jubilee number that would be from 1406, but if you're counting this way, it still doesn't even make sense. That's got to be the 69th Jubilee, because the reason I say that is, if you're saying, okay, there's going to be 70 Jubilees at 50 years apiece, that's 3,500 years. And I need to add that to 1406, negative 1406, because we're in BC. And then you're going to have to allow for a year zero. No year zero. So you'd have to bump that up to 2095. But basically, this way of counting would lead you to a 70th Jubilee of 2094 or thereabouts. So it wouldn't even be that we'd be looking at 2044 as it would be that we'd be looking at 2044 as the next one, but the 70th one wouldn't even be until 2094. So there's significant issues with this. And then tack on another problem. The whole Essenes calendar, where this is coming from, is putting the next Jubilee period between 2025 and 2075. Well, according to this way of counting, you're even beyond that. So it wouldn't even be the current Jubilee period of 50 would be relevant. It would be the next one, which would start in 2075. So there are any number of issues with this. Pick your issue. Any number of issues with this. The math doesn't work in any way that you try to work it. So I don't know why people would say what they're saying. My guess is that they haven't tried to plot this out, or maybe they have and they still are coming to wrong conclusions. I don't even know. So hopefully you guys didn't get too confused, but if you did, don't even sweat it, because this is wrong anyway. And I was basically just showing you all of the ways in which we can, all of the ways that in the last 20 minutes I have found just on the surface where this is completely incompatible with anything scriptural. So if anyone is giving credit to the Essene calendar, if anyone is giving credit to the Jubilee periods of 50 and not plus or minus 49 to get to the 50th year, if anyone is saying that the rapture could happen anytime between 2025 and 2075, well, based on this, you're wrong anyway, because 3,500 years to the 70th Jubilee would actually be 2095, not 2025 or 2075. I mean, like I said, pick your wrong issue. It's just wrong all over the place. And then you go to the very basic principle, is that counting this way doesn't even afford you the opportunity to get to 69 periods of 7, which we know have already elapsed. You can't even back into that on a 360-day calendar. When you're converting, when you get your 173,880 days, you can't even convert that from a Gregorian calendar to a Hebrew calendar and get to 69. It doesn't work. So this is stupid. Don't believe this. If anyone says this, just tune them out.